The queen who challenged Rome. Rome wanted her alive. Cleopatra wanted to die on her own terms. She had survived palace conspiracies, defeated her own brother, stood beside Julius Caesar, and built a dangerous alliance with Mark Antony. But now the greatest military power in the ancient world was marching toward her capital. Her army was collapsing. Her allies were disappearing. The man she loved was dying. And outside the walls of Alexandria stood the army of Octavian, the future first emperor of Rome. Cleopatra had one final decision to make: surrender or die as a queen. But how did a young woman inherit a kingdom surrounded by enemies and become powerful enough to challenge Rome itself? To understand that, we have to go back to the beginning. In 69 BC, Cleopatra was born in Alexandria. At the time, Egypt was one of the richest kingdoms in the Mediterranean. Alexandria was a spectacular city filled with merchants, scholars, temples, palaces, and ships arriving from across the ancient world. But behind the beauty was a dangerous royal family. Cleopatra belonged to the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek Macedonian family that had ruled Egypt since the age of Alexander the Great. For generations, the Ptolemies had controlled Egypt, but had a brutal tradition. The royal family constantly fought for power. Brothers could become enemies, sisters could become rivals, and throne could be worth killing for. Cleopatra learned this lesson early. She was not simply being raised to become a queen. She was not simply being raised to become a queen, and she was unusually intelligent. She studied philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, literature, medicine, and politics. She learned several languages and, reportedly, learned Egyptian. Unlike many rulers of her dynasty, this was more than education. It was political strategy. Cleopatra understood that Egypt was not merely land to be controlled. It was an ancient civilization with its own culture, religion, and identity. If she wanted to rule Egypt successfully, she needed the Egyptian people to see her as their queen. Then, in 51 BC, her father died. Cleopatra was only 18. She inherited the throne alongside her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. At first, they were supposed to rule together, but Cleopatra quickly began exercising more independent authority. Her brother's advisors were alarmed. They wanted the young king to control the government. Cleopatra refused to become a powerless figurehead. The conflict became worse, and eventually Cleopatra was forced out of Alexandria. Think about the situation. She was the queen of Egypt, but she no longer controlled the capital. Her own family had removed her from power. She could have disappeared. Instead, she went to Syria and began building an army. Cleopatra was preparing to take Egypt back. And then, history gave her an unexpected opportunity. Thousands of miles away, Rome was tearing itself apart. Julius Caesar and Pompey the Great had become enemies. Their armies fought for control of the Roman Republic. Caesar eventually defeated Pompey. Pompey fled toward Egypt. He believed the Egyptian royal court might protect him. Instead, he was assassinated. When Caesar arrived in Alexandria, he was presented with Pompey's severed head. Caesar was furious, but his arrival also created an opportunity for Cleopatra. She needed Caesar's military power. Caesar needed Egypt's wealth and political cooperation. The queen had to reach him. According to the famous ancient story, Cleopatra was secretly smuggled into Caesar's quarters, hidden inside a rolled carpet or bedding. The covering was opened, and Cleopatra appeared before Caesar, a young queen who had lost her throne, standing before the most powerful man in Rome. Whether every detail of the story is true is impossible to know, but the meeting happened, and Cleopatra made her move. She spoke with Caesar. She presented her case. She showed him that supporting her could benefit Rome. Caesar was impressed. He decided to support Cleopatra's claim to the throne. Ptolemy XIII's advisors would not accept this. Alexandria became a battlefield. Roman soldiers and Egyptian forces fought through the city. The royal palace was caught in the conflict. The fighting lasted for months. Eventually, Caesar's forces won. Ptolemy XIII died while attempting to escape, and Cleopatra returned to power. The woman who had been driven from her kingdom was now queen again. But she had learned an important lesson. Egypt could not survive by fighting Rome directly. She needed Rome, and she needed the right Roman. That Roman was Julius Caesar. Cleopatra and Caesar became lovers, but their relationship was far more complicated than romance. Caesar needed Egypt's grain and wealth. Cleopatra needed Roman protection. Their alliance strengthened both sides. Cleopatra later gave birth to a son. His name was Ptolemy XV, Caesar, better known as Caesarion. Cleopatra claimed that Caesar was his father. For her, Caesarion was extremely important. He represented the future of her dynasty. If Caesar recognized him, Egypt could potentially remain powerful even as Rome expanded. But Caesar returned to Rome, and Cleopatra eventually traveled there as well. Her presence fascinated Roman society, but it also created fear. Caesar had become extraordinarily powerful. He was declared dictator for life. His enemies believed he wanted to become king. For Romans, that was dangerous. They had overthrown their last king centuries earlier. Then came the day that changed everything. March 15th, 44 BC, the Ides of March. Caesar entered the Senate. The conspirators surrounded him. Then the knives came out. Caesar was attacked again and again. The man who had conquered Gaul and defeated Pompey was murdered by men who claimed they were saving Rome. Caesar was dead, and Cleopatra's greatest Roman protector was gone. She returned to Egypt. But Rome was entering another civil war. This time, two men would rise above the chaos: Mark Antony and Octavian. At first, Antony and Octavian worked together. They fought Caesar's assassins and defeated them. But once their common enemies were gone, their partnership began to collapse. Antony controlled the eastern territories. Octavian controlled the west. Both wanted greater power, and between them stood Egypt. Cleopatra understood the danger. She needed another alliance. In 41 BC, Mark Antony summoned her to Tarsus. Cleopatra did not arrive like an ordinary politician. She arrived like a queen. Her ship was magnificently decorated. Gold reflected from the sunlight. Music filled the air. Perfume drifted across the river. Crowds gathered to watch. Cleopatra knew the power of presentation. She wanted Antony to see Egypt's wealth, but more importantly, she wanted Antony to understand that Egypt could be useful. Antony needed money. He needed grain. He needed resources for his military campaigns. Cleopatra needed Roman protection. Their interests aligned. The political relationship soon became personal. Cleopatra and Antony became lovers. They had children together, and for a time, their partnership seemed unstoppable. But there was one man who understood exactly how dangerous this alliance could become: Octavian. Octavian did not immediately attack Antony with an army. He attacked him with something else: propaganda. He told Rome that Antony had abandoned his homeland. He portrayed Cleopatra as a dangerous foreign queen. He claimed that she was using Antony to gain power over Rome. The message spread. Antony was no longer simply a Roman general. He was becoming the man who had chosen an Egyptian queen over Rome. Cleopatra was no longer simply a foreign monarch. She was becoming Rome's enemy. The political tension became unbearable. In 32 BC, the final confrontation began. Octavian declared war against Cleopatra. The Roman world prepared for battle. Antony and Cleopatra gathered a powerful fleet. Octavian gathered his own forces. The armies eventually met near the western coast of Greece. The location was Actium, and there, the future of the Mediterranean would be decided. The Battle of Actium began. Hundreds of ships filled the sea. Warriors stood on wooden decks carrying swords, shields, and spears. Ships crashed into one another. Smoke covered the battlefield. The fighting became chaotic. Antony's forces were powerful, but Octavian's commanders had the advantage. Slowly, Antony's position began to collapse. Then came the moment that changed everything. Cleopatra's fleet broke away. Antony followed. Their retreat left their remaining forces behind. Octavian had won. The defeat was catastrophic. Antony and Cleopatra escaped to Egypt. But the power they had built was gone. Their allies began disappearing. Their armies weakened. Their enemies became stronger, and Octavian started marching toward Alexandria. Cleopatra had fought for years to protect Egypt. Now Rome was coming directly for her. As Octavian approached, Cleopatra tried to find a way out. She negotiated. She made plans. She attempted to protect her children, but the situation was becoming impossible. Then Antony received devastating news. He was told that Cleopatra was dead. The news was false, but Antony believed it. Unable to imagine life without her, he attempted suicide. He was badly wounded. When Cleopatra learned what had happened, she ordered that Antony be brought to her. He was taken to her chamber. The two lovers saw each other for the final time. Antony died in Cleopatra's presence. Now the queen was alone. Octavian entered Alexandria. Cleopatra knew what would happen if she surrendered. She would be taken to Rome. She would become part of Octavian's triumph. The woman who had ruled Egypt would be displayed as a prisoner. Cleopatra had spent her entire life fighting to remain a queen. She refused to become a trophy. In 30 BC, Cleopatra entered her final days. The exact circumstances of her death remain uncertain. The famous story says that an Egyptian asp was brought to her. The snake bit Cleopatra. Its venom ended her life. But historians have never been able to prove exactly how she died. What is certain is that Cleopatra was only about 39 years old. Her death ended the Ptolemaic dynasty. Egypt became part of the Roman Empire. Caesarion, Cleopatra's son, was killed soon afterward. The last hope of an independent Ptolemaic Egypt disappeared. Rome had won. But Octavian could not erase Cleopatra, because something unexpected happened. The queen he had defeated became a legend. For more than 2,000 years, people have tried to understand Cleopatra. Some remember her beauty. Others remember Caesar and Antony. But reducing Cleopatra to romance completely misses the real story. She was a ruler. She was a diplomat. She was a strategist. And she was fighting for a kingdom surrounded by powers stronger than herself. She understood that Egypt could not defeat Rome on the battlefield. So she used diplomacy. She used wealth. She used alliances. She used political influence. And for years it worked. Cleopatra managed to keep Egypt independent while Rome was expanding across the Mediterranean. She survived family betrayal. She survived civil war. She survived the death of Julius Caesar. She survived political enemies. And she continued fighting even when the odds were against her. Her greatest weapon was not simply beauty. It was intelligence. She understood powerful men. She understood politics, and she understood that survival sometimes required making your enemies depend on you. But eventually, Rome became too powerful. Octavian was too determined. And Egypt had nowhere left to escape. Cleopatra lost, but she did not disappear. Today, the monuments of her dynasty are ruins. The armies are gone. The palaces have vanished. The Ptolemaic dynasty ended more than 2,000 years ago. Yet people still know her name, Cleopatra, the final queen of ancient Egypt, the woman who stood between Egypt and Rome, the queen who became the ally of Julius Caesar, the partner of Mark Antony, the enemy of Octavian, and the last ruler of a dynasty that had survived for generations. Her story reminds us that history is not always written by the people who win. Sometimes the defeated become the legends. Octavian conquered Egypt, but Cleopatra conquered something else. Time. Because 2,000 years later, Rome is history, Egypt is history, but Cleopatra is still a name the world remembers. And perhaps that is her greatest victory. Not that she defeated Rome. She didn't. Not that she saved her kingdom. She couldn't. But that, when her world collapsed, she left behind a story powerful enough to survive for thousands of years. That is why Cleopatra still matters. She was not simply the beautiful queen from ancient Egypt. She was a woman who entered a man's world of armies, emperors, and political power, and fought for her throne until the very end. Her kingdom fell, her dynasty ended, her enemies won, but her legend survived. And legends never truly die. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Legends Archive for more cinematic documentaries about the rulers, warriors, and extraordinary people who changed history.